Hi, I'm Neil Hermes and welcome to my weekly bird wrap, where this week I'm going to bring you a story about do birds fart, Willy Wagtails, a fabulous new discovery of a new species and new genus of bird in Bolivia, and to wrap up, the Christmas Rosella. Hi, I'm Neil Hermes and welcome to my weekly bird wrap, where I bring you interesting stories about birds from all around the world. This week I'd like to start with a story that was sent in to me on my Ask Neil page by Alice. And Alice has asked me about the slang expression that's used in the UK and in Australia and perhaps in other parts of the world, which is referring to getting up early in the morning as getting up at sparrow's fart. Now, this is an expression that's widely used in colloquial expressions in Australia, but I just wanted to explore that expression, sparrow's fart. First of all, the issue is that it's the birds waking up early in the morning, and as it turns out, sparrows aren't that early, they don't rise early. In fact, they're one of the late risers. Sparrows aren't the birds that you would depend on to wake you in the morning. There's many species of birds that'll call all through the night. I've done a story about magpies that do this, cuckoos do it, many other species do. But the dawn chorus is often led by a whole range of other species, not sparrows. And perhaps if I was to select a bird that would wake me in the morning, it might be an introduced bird like a common blackbird. Blackbirds are very vocal early in the morning, so I'm not sure that sparrows are that useful about waking you up as the early morning alarm clock. So getting to the second part of Alice's question, and that is, do birds flatulate? That's a very interesting question. Let's look at the whole animal kingdom in terms of flatulation. And there's books written about this, and you can get the scientific analysis of which birds produce gas that they then expel. Many animals, particularly large mammals, have a large amount of grass in their gut, and the grass is decomposed inside their body by microbes. That produces large amounts of gas, and the gas has to get out. And cows, for example, will burp or will fart, and that's one of the ways that the gases get out of the alimentary tract. The question is, do birds have flatulence? Do they produce excessive gases? And the thing is, about most birds, they have a very short alimentary tract. They don't consume large amounts of gas. They don't have the microbes in their gut that produce the gas. So as far as we know, no birds produce flatulation. It's interesting, birds evolved from dinosaurs, and there is a theory that some of the very large dinosaurs that ate large amounts of gas probably did have gaseous expulsions from their alimentary tract, but not so with birds. So that old saying, you know, getting up at sparrow's fart, is probably wrong on two counts. One is sparrows aren't going to wake you early, and at any rate, they don't flatulate. So thanks for sending in that question, Alice, and I hope that helps people sort out that old saying that we often use to mean getting up early in the morning. My second story today is about a wonderful discovery of a new species of tanager in South America. Now, tanagers are a bizarre group of songbirds that largely are found in South America, and a number of them creep up into Mexico, and a few are migrants out of North America. They're not a group of birds well known to people from Europe or from Australia. There's about 280 odd species of tanagers. They're fairly small. None of them would be bigger than the palm of my hand, for example. But they live in largely live in dense rainforests, particularly in the Amazon, in Bolivia, in Peru, etc. A group of biologists back in 2000 saw a bird that they weren't sure what it was. And it's taken them a number of years to sort out the fact that this was in fact a new species. It's quite a brilliantly yellow and black bird, a little like a northern hemisphere oriole. It was called the Kill Bill bird because of its colour connection to that famous movie. But this week it's been announced that this bird now has got a new name. It's the Inti tanager, and Inti is an Aztec word meaning sunshine, alluding to the bright yellow colouring of the bird. And not only is it a new species, it's also a new genus, which means it has no close relatives. It's very unusual in a modern world to find a species as spectacular as this, as distinctive as this, that is a new species. So the Inti tanager has joined the ranks of 10,000 other species that we know exist on the planet. And it would appear that it's in a relatively secure area And the opportunity to see the Inti tanager is there for visitors who go to the national parks of the southern Andes, the lower Andes and the Amazon in Peru and in Bolivia. My third story today is about Willy Wagtails. Now, Willy Wagtails are a popular Australian and New Guinea bird, black and white, long tail. They seem to live everywhere. Wherever you are in Australia, it's a suburban street or out in the forest, in a rainforest, you'll find this very friendly member of the fantail family. And one of the reasons it's friendly, or we think it's friendly, is they like eating insects. And they'll follow a moving object, it might be a cow or a human, around because we're disturbing insects as we move about in the bush. And they'll come to catch the moths that are kicked up out of the grass. So we regard them as being friendly because they come and they have a very chirpy, happy sounding call. So Willy Wagtails are a rather favoured bird. Of course, they're black and white, they've got a big long tail, little white brow. But a couple of quick stories about the Willy Wagtail, which I think are interesting. Following on from that, it's a friendly bird idea, is that Aboriginal people had a story about Willy Wagtails, that they were the gossips of the community. And the reason that happened was Aboriginal people, when they were in camp, would often have camps 50 metres apart, the men in one group, women in another, children in another place, and the Willy Wagtails would dart between the various places to get the insects that were being disturbed. And a story evolved that, in fact, what the Willy Wagtails were doing were listening to the stories of each of the group and then telling the stories out of school. And so they became known as the gossip bird in some Aboriginal communities, which is a cute and interesting element of interpreting the behaviour of this popular and common species. They also occur in New Guinea, and I lived in a compound where there were lights on all night, and the Willy Wagtails there not only fed on moths during the day, but because there were lights on at night, were able to feed all night as well, and they basically lived 24 hours a day. I don't know what the biology of those birds are, having had that lifestyle, but they're very adaptable and can live in close community with humans in our suburban areas. So a shout out to the Willy Wagtails is one of my stories for this week. My last story this week is about a bird I'm now going to call the Christmas Rosella. Now, if you've followed my YouTube stories in the past, you'll know that I think that the Eastern Rosella in Australia is probably one of the most spectacular birds in Australia, one of the most beautiful, and potentially one of the most beautiful birds in the world. But I was looking at the colours of this bird the other day and I realised it's a very Christmassy colour. The white throat, the red back, the blue, the yellow, the back with the lined black and yellow, a very Christmassy bird, the Eastern Rosella. But I was also watching the birds nesting in my yard and I realised the chicks are going to come out around about Christmas time. Rosellas typically will lay their eggs in late October, early November. They'll typically have their chicks coming out during December, essentially over the Christmas period. So I was thinking about what my favourite Christmas bird would be, and not only is the Eastern Rosella one of the most beautiful birds, but it's very reminiscent of Christmas for me in my garden, and perhaps many gardens of people who live in Melbourne, along the East Coast, Sydney, and almost all the way up to Brisbane. It's very much a bird of our Christmas time. So a shout out to the Eastern Rosella, or perhaps I should rename it the Christmas Rosella, and its prevalence at this time of the year and symbolism around the Christmas period. Hope you've enjoyed the stories today. Send me some questions through to my Ask Neil page, and happy birding.